Right, it's time for Ask GMBN this week. So we've got a whole load of questions and me and Jessica try and answer them for you using some of our other videos as well.
Yeah.
Should we kick it off, Jess?
Let's get started. So the first one is from THEODORE Roberts, who asks, when quoting the travel of the real shock, is it the actual travel of the shock or the travel of the wheel that you're referring to? If it's just the travel of the shock, then surely this doesn't take into account the effect that different frame and linkage designs have on the actual travel of the wheel.
That's true. When we're talking about rear travel, it's about the bike. So, you know, how much the wheel is moving. When we're talking about a shock, I tend to call it a stroke, so you get different stroke rear shocks, and then with the linkage, of course, that makes a bigger difference. But Doddy has done a great video on suspension linkages, but yes, we're talking about the wheel movement.
So there are 4 main designs out there. And within those designs, there are a lot of different variations, and of course, there are some anomalies. But those main designs, I'll give you a quick rundown on those. So there's single pivot with a linkage-driven shock. There's a 4-bar, and then there's the short link system, which is also a short link 4-bar.
Next question comes from ELIAS SANDELL, who says he hates jumps. Every time I come up to a jump, I just go around them. I do this because I'm extremely scared of them. It's become a problem when I'm at bike parks and places with lots of jumps. I can't manual or bunny hop, but I know the technique. What should I do?
Well, I've been there. I've been pretty scared of doing jumps and drops myself. And even though you know the technique in your head, it's kind of hard to sometimes coordinate what your brain thinks and what your body actually ends up doing. So I totally relate with you there. So my advice is you've got to practice and you've really got to just push through that fear boundary, but definitely start on some small jumps, little like
pump
rollers,
tracks.
pump tracks, things like that. Just start getting that technique, getting that flow together. And then once you get that basics, it will be easier to progress and get...
Totally, pump track's so good for that,
Yeah.
I think, because you can't go fast unless you're kind of getting good at it anyway. You get used to the bike moving around underneath you, and that's what it's going to feel like when it comes to jumping.
Definitely.
Another skills one, Daniel Griffin says he needs help with riding berms. I can corner pretty well on flat turns, but have a hard time taking advantage of the extra support berms offer and always end up taking a middle or inside line. I've slid out on a flat turn a few times and I'm afraid of sliding out in a berm and going over the top. How can I beat my fear of berms?
Similar again, I think.
Yeah.
It's practice. It's find yourself a couple of corners and berms that you do like doing. And then it's a case of even setting little markers. So take your first line, whether that's quite inside, and then just maybe even marking with a stick and just kind of drawing a line and seeing where you can go and hitting that. But with berms, I mean, especially big berms, it's really about pumping through them as well. So it's really about getting the speed, controlling your speed, and then pumping through. And you find that it's not about going faster, it's about getting smoother.
Totally, I think you should find a big one as well, so it's hard to go over the top, and then try and get high on it quite early and just get the feel of being up on a berm and not just sort of going into the middle and then going high and back down. Just find a really nice big one.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Derek says, how should I train for enduro racing? Well, funny enough, I've just done my first enduro race in a while and I wasn't as fit as I'd hoped, but we have done a video in the past, so check out my build up to the Enduro World Series and finale. So Wally's been giving me a month's training in advance. So I'll talk you through the first month. And basically he puts notes. At the start of the week, I'm supposed to be focusing on my aerobic fitness, zone 2 to low zone 4. And I said I can do 2 turbo sessions a week. So I'll fit that around work, around family life. So an hour, twice a week, in the week. And then at the weekend, I'll try and do a 2 to 3 hour mountain bike ride. So, right, for example, this week, Tuesday, it says, go on the turbo, and this is a 50-minute session or 55-minute session, and I'll do zone 1 for 5 minutes, then zone 2 for 10 minutes, so going up those heart rate or power zones.
The next one's from Matthew Cool.
Cool.
Is it really even travel that defines a bike anymore? I think it's geometry and how robustly the bike is built. I have a 140mm enduro that I built for free ride.
Yeah, I think you are totally right, actually, but someone replied, I've forgotten who, I didn't put it in the script, but someone else said, yes, you're right, but you wouldn't get a 200mm travel cross-country bike.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a bit of everything really, but I definitely get your point.
Yeah. Next one, Christopher Brady. What are the things you should look for when buying a second-hand full suspension compared to a hardtail?
So I would check for play in the pivot, so grab hold of the saddle and the rear wheel. You need to make sure everything's still stiff in there and there's nothing moving around. If you really can, it's good to take the shock out, so even just one end of the shock and just move that bike through its travel and feel if it's moving freely, if there's any play in there, because that is the one thing really that's quite expensive to replace.
Yeah.
On a full suspension bike when bearings start going and bushing, things like that. But it's not hugely different to actually check over in a hardtail. Next question comes from MOHAMMAD RAMIS. Hi GMBN, I'm RAMIS from Singapore. I love riding my bike for long distance and at times my legs go numb. What should I replace, my seat or switch my seat post to a dropper?
Well, the thing is with your legs going numb, there could be a multitude of reasons for that, but I would probably suggest you go and get a bike fit and you go to your local bike shop. It may not be your saddle or your dropper, it could be so many other things. Could be your bike size, could be stem, could be so many things. It could even be the pedals that you're using or the shoes, because if you're compressing the nerves in your feet, it could be numbing your legs at the top. So I'd definitely go to your local bike shop, get a fit and get some advice from there.
Another question on sort of pain when riding from Veos M. Loves riding bikes, but unfortunately my knee has given up. I have pain in the front of my right knee. Doctor says it's tendonitis. Are you familiar with anything like that? Do you have any tips? I have my bike fit all right and comfortable. I find that long rides are the worst. I've got old injuries, especially with my knee, that actually if I ride for big days in a row, I do find that does hurt. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think it's tendonitis, it's just old injury. So I don't know, I've not really got a great amount of experience with this, but again, it could be down to bike fit. See a physio, I'd probably recommend doing that. Yeah,
definitely. See a physio, stretching as well, stretching before, after a ride, just to really loosen things up. Also, if it's muscular at all, then keep your knees warm. Don't let them get too cold. I've got problems with my right knee where I find it's a lot more painful in the winter than in the summer. But I stretch as much as I can with my legs just to try and hold off any kind of aches and pains when I'm riding.
Yeah, absolutely. Good advice. So MTB asks, for cross-country racing, what should I upgrade first? A dropper post or to tubeless tyres?
Well,
what do you recommend?
It's a tricky one really, because a lot of cross-country racers don't even use dropper posts.
Yeah,
so
I personally think tubeless is really important. I would like to do that. It's not a massive expense to go tubeless. You can probably use the tyres you've already got, just to get a kit, a valve and some tape and stuff.
Exactly.
Bit fiddly, but here's some advice from Doddy on how to do it.
Put the tyre onto the rim, then you get some warm, foamy or soapy water and apply it to the sidewalls and the rims, and then you simply inflate it. It seats it, you'll hear that classic pop as the beads are seated into the actual hooks on the rims. Then when you remove the pump, the air is going to come rushing back out again because we're doing this with no valve core in there. But there's nothing to worry about because you're then going to put the sealant in afterwards, knowing that the tyre is hopefully already sealed in place. So I'm just going to screw this onto the valve. Now I'm simply just going to squirt that straight into the tyre. So the last thing you need to do now is just put the valve core in before inflating the tyre. Note that I don't need to do this with the valve core out because it's already seated. So the hard bit is done.
So next one's from ELIAS. Are there any bike bags that can fit two bikes? As I have a gravel bike and a mountain bike and I would like to bring them both along for a trip, and it would be too cumbersome to carry two bike bags with all my luggage.
I don't think so. I think it could be too heavy because you'll find on airplanes it'll be a 32 kilogram maximum, and even if you get that heavy they'll charge you a fortune. It's normally about 23 kilos, is it?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to travel with two bike bags or boxes. I've done that quite a lot in the past. Just get yourself one of those trolleys at the airport.
Yeah.
I have dragged two bike bags, a massive bag and a rucksack through Heathrow Airport with a broken shoulder before. It was loads of fun.
If Neil can do it, you can definitely do it then.
That's true. I am. Harvey Hill is 14 and he's on a pretty standard mountain bike. I'm upgrading to a Canyon Stride soon. I want to get into racing. How do I enter and how do I know what level I'm at?
Well, I think with racing, there's check out your local bike park, check out your trail centres. Usually people in bike shops know quite a lot of races that are happening local to you. There's also websites, depending on where you are as well, that will have a local race scene. Places like Facebook forums as well usually have loads of information about races in your area.
Totally. You're 14, so you'll be in the youth category, so there'll be a big mix of people from, you know, experienced to newbies in that class, so get in it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Have a go.
Right, on to the quickfire round. Right, I'll hit you with a couple, Jess.
Okay.
Grayson Thwaite. Is Blake going to Crankworks?
Yeah.
Jess Rosenthal, what's your opinion on Canyon's new Spectral trail bike?
Well, I've just ordered one, so, and I think they're amazing.
I've ridden one once, and I thought it was really, really good, actually. Very nice. Matthew Tweed, can we have a guided tour of your setup, please? Neil once said Blake has the Canyon Talk downstairs, but I've never seen a shed with 2 floors.
Well,
posh shed. We've got posh shed.
It's posh shed.
it's very fancy.
How do you get downstairs? I don't know. I'm not worked it out yet.
It's one of those things we can't reveal.
Afraid not.
Sorry.
No. That's it. Time for a correct me if I'm wrong. So this one has been sent in from Mitch. So let's check out the video. This is Mitch racing his uncle down the dual slalom, and he slipped a pedal and dropped a chain all at once. Help him out so we can get sending it. Right, Mitch's uncle, I reckon you've probably tried to pull up with your feet, and that's why you've sort of slid, all the weight's come off your pedal, and then you miss it when you try and land, and then it comes around and whacks your shin. We've all done it. Yep,
and it looks as though the seat a little bit too high there, so make sure you drop your saddle out of the way.
Yeah, got kind of bucked and then up high on the saddle. So yeah, it's easy. You can fix that and then stop whacking your shins, hopefully. If you've got any videos you want to send to us so we can check them out and try and help you out, use our brand new uploader. So follow the link down below. Send us your video, give us a little description of what's going wrong, and we'll try and help you out.
Yeah.
If you want to see all the racing news, click over here for that one.
And if you want to see my debut on the Dirt Shed show from last week, click down here.
Thumbs up if you like Ask, and don't forget to hit that sub button.
Hit it!